Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jessel Podcast. I'm Ernie Rapoza, and I'm here with Kate Lewis, founder of Connection Consulting Partners and co-founder of Recruit Hers. I got that right, Kate?
You
Um,
did, yeah.
so Recruit Hers is an online, on-demand training program to help women interested in exploring a new career in recruiting. And you just launched within the last couple of weeks. Today's the 19th, so it's a shiny new company, right?
It's a shiny new company. Yeah, just launched December 15th, right before the end of the year. So very
Excellent.
excited. Business number two, staying
Excellent. Well,
busy.
welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here again, Kate.
Thank you.
So for folks that haven't had the pleasure of listening to you or on our podcast or have met you in real life, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then we can dive into talking more about what you're doing today.
Sure. Thanks for having me back. Loved being a part of Just Little Podcast season one. And now I'm excited to be here for season two. So thank you.
Excellent.
Oh. So I am Kate Lewis. I have spent the last 15 years in recruiting and IT consulting services, mainly here in the Raleigh-Durham market. Um, I believe that recruiting is a relationship business, not just a transaction. And I like to focus on helping empower people to pursue careers that are aligned with their passions and values, and feel that recruiting is a career that has allowed me to positively impact a lot of people's lives. Um, so that's my passion, is helping people discover their talents and find better career opportunities. Like you mentioned, Ernie, about a year and a half ago now, I went off on my own and became an entrepreneur, now serial entrepreneur, and
Mhm.
started Connections Consulting Partners. That is a direct hire recruiting firm focused on IT and executive search. And then I just launched Recruit Hers with my co-founder, Teresa, which is helping women re-enter the workforce and explore a new career that provides them with the freedom and flexibility that they deserve and desire, if recruiting is a potential career path option for them. So we spent the bulk of last year recording and building this online training program to make it available, for women to fit into their current lives, personal lives, with
Mhm.
work, with kids, with family, with all the commitments that they have. This way, making it online on demand, they might just need to just do it at night or on weekends and get through the course, and then they'll know more about if recruiting is the right career path for them. So we launched Recruit Hers finally on December 15th. And now we're working on the Recruit Hers corporate training program to help staffing companies quickly train and ramp up new employees that are entering as entry level recruiters. So
Oh, neat.
very fun and exciting. So thanks
So,
again for having me.
yeah, again, thrilled to have you here. The what was the genesis, Kate, of you already had this company you were running. You're very well known here in the Raleigh area, in the recruiting community and in the technology community. So what made you think second company and we've got to do this thing with your co-founder?
So it's funny, Teresa and I have worked together previously, almost
Yeah,
a decade ago, and then kind of went our separate career paths. And we
yeah.
were talking, and her background is in sales and leadership training and coaching. And we were talking about what I was doing. And, recruiting is a career that's always in demand, especially in the hot economy and market we had the last 2 years, that I was always in need of finding more recruiters. So companies were hiring me at Connections to recruit recruiters for their companies.
Right.
And so I just felt like there was a need. And then I had a lot of conversations with personal friends and people in my network that are always interested in what I'm doing, and the flexibility that I have to go on trips and work from anywhere. And have asked, like, how did I get into recruiting? Do you think they could get into recruiting? I am a working mom, and so I have friends that have been stay-at-home moms. Our youngest are just now in first grade, and they're like, do you think I could re-enter the workforce? What would I be doing? I've been sitting out for 6 years.
Hmm.
How do I get back in? but have a flexible job where I could still take kids to and from school, but I want to have a way to financially contribute to my household, maybe make some money just for family vacations. And so there was definitely a need that needed to be filled. And it allows me to focus on one of my passions, which is empowering and supporting women to find fulfilling careers. So we came together and built this training program, and hopefully our goal is to positively impact 100 people's lives this year. So
Wow, that's amazing. Cool. Well, and how would you say, Kate, the overall industry itself is these days? Is recruiting growing, declining? What does it look like
yeah.
based on your experience over, I don't know how long you've been in the industry, but it's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a while. I know people are worried about the recession that's up and coming, right? Like we just
Yep.
kind of hit the peak and the heyday, and now there's a lot of announcements that we see every day about companies doing layoffs and restructuring. I would say just because the Fortune 100 publicly traded companies, the big tech companies that we know the brands of, are restructuring and doing layoffs, doesn't mean that there's not other companies that are growing and expanding and doubling down. And so
Yeah.
for the growing companies, this is an opportunistic time to grab some talent that is now available in the market that was previously not available because they were highly compensated employees at big Fortune 100 companies.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so just because some companies are restructuring and reducing their staff doesn't mean that that is indicative of the entire um, market. And so, same with recruiting. In recruiting, there may be some recruiters that lose their corporate jobs at Meta or Facebook or
Mhm.
Amazon, right?
Yep.
But then there's other startups, small businesses that have cash influx and funding that are in their, they're about to peak, right? They're
Mhm.
growing, they're hiring, and so they need recruiters to help them with their brand in the marketplace to hire and grow. And also, what I have found from an agency recruiting standpoint, which was my background, is when companies are afraid to hire full-time staff, they rely heavier on staffing agency partners to provide them with contractor resources and contingent labor staff. And
Mhm.
so, staffing agencies tend to be extremely busy during slower economies and recessions because the demand for contractors has increased. And so, it's also a good time for people to think about, contracting if they're able to, and for people to, and recruiters can be busy working at staffing agencies that are providing that contingent, scalable, flexible workforce.
Okay. Wow. And that's a great perspective that if you're looking at the news today, it's all doom and gloom and the world is ending because Meta and Microsoft and Google are laying people off. So for job seekers watching this podcast, I hope this gives you this helps you relax a bit. That there's still lots of opportunity out there. Unemployment is at an all-time low. Talent is in demand everywhere. So and for recruiters, that's the way you articulated where things are right now, Kate, with if companies are starting to pull back a bit, folks, just like the folks who are in your program, there's opportunity to be had. So that's great.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. And I think contracting used to have this like negative connotation with it. Like
Hmm.
people didn't really, contracting wasn't really a legitimized career path. It was a gap fill to get a foot in a door to get another full-time job. But
Yeah.
because people have experienced now maybe multiple restructurings, layoffs, and recessions during their shorter career in the last 20 years, especially, the younger generation of the workforce, there is no longer that loyalty to a company to go work for a company for 20 years and get a pension and a retirement and
Right.
stay with IBM from college till retirement, right? People want to have a little bit more control over their career and their destiny, and have there's this gig economy of freelancers and contractors and a lot of LLCs that have been founded, especially I think in the last 3 or 4 years.
Hmm.
People want a little bit more of that control of their career, and so being a contractor and working with companies on 6 month and 12-month assignments allows you to remain in control of your career and not necessarily, you know just be stuck with one employer for a 20-year career path.
Right. Right. Okay. Good. Well, we had talked about a topic for this call. We definitely wanted to explore a bit about what you were doing with Recruit Hers, but there's also so much experience you're bringing to the table around the recruiting field. Folks who may be looking for a role for the first time could benefit from your perspective on what it's like to work with a recruiter. And we had some myths that you had brought into the call for us to talk through, so we can bust some of those myths in the call, so that as folks are out there starting their job search, or if they're in the middle of one and wondering why their experiences with recruiters hasn't been going the way they expect it to be, you can bring some of that to the table and explore that a bit more. So I'll, if there's nothing else we want to do, I'll dive into the list here and we can explore that.
Yes.
So let's see.
Yes.
So myth number one: recruiter, the recruiter works for the candidate.
Yes, I love it. This is my favorite. This is my favorite one of the bunch. So the truth is the recruiter works on behalf of the company that has hired them to fill the position.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is a common misconception and point of confusion from both candidates and, well, a lot of candidates, right? So a candidate is like, I'm going to get my resume to Kate. She's a recruiter and she's going to go find me a job. And so I've done my job as a candidate and now my resume is in her hands and it's up to Kate to find me a job.
And I'll just wait by the phone. Yeah.
And I'll just wait. And, yeah, I know Kate. She knows everyone in town. Let's just have her. And what's funny is the recruiter is not hired by the candidate to go find them a job. You're not paying me as your headhunter in your job search, right? I'm being paid by my company that I work for to fill the jobs at my company. So if I'm a corporate recruiter at Cisco, I'm being paid by Cisco to fill the jobs at Cisco. So I'm only interested in candidates that want to work at Cisco at my company with the jobs that I have available. And if I'm a recruiter at an agency, or like I have my own agency, I'm being hired by companies to fill their positions. And so the company that's paying for the recruiter's time and attention is who the recruiter works for.
Right.
And unfortunately, not all candidates fit into one of those positions that I have open right now. So you can't just have one recruiter as your partner and expect that they're going to find you a job. They might put you in their network and their pipeline for future roles, but you also need to be really aware that, they're working on the open positions that they have available, that they're being paid their salary or their commission to fill for the company.
Right. And it's, while there may be by some chance that they may see something and remember you and be like, oh, they may be a good fit. Like, don't count on that. Because how many candidates do you think a recruiter sees in a week?
Yeah. Over 100 profiles probably in any given week. Yeah. One of the things I like in this too is in real estate, if I can use this metaphor, that we talked about. And so in real estate, when you're selling your house, there is a real estate agent that is hired by the person selling the house that represents the sellers to sell their house. And there is a real estate agent that represents the buyers that are looking to buy a house. And there's two agents and they're representing each party in the transaction of a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in recruiting and in your job search, you, the candidate, are selling your house, right? So I have a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with a 2-car garage and a nice grassy backyard in Cary, North Carolina. I'm a candidate. I'm selling myself. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science with 10 years of experience as a software developer and a specialty in Python and machine learning. And I live in Cary, North Carolina, right? Like, that's the house I'm selling is me.
Right.
But I don't have an agent representing me as the seller. The agents are the recruiters, and they're all representing the companies that are the buyers that have the positions to fill, that have a list of requirements. So I'm a recruiter. I'm representing, Microsoft. We're going to use big name of companies that
Yeah.
I'm not being paid for, but I'm representing Microsoft. Microsoft is looking to hire .NET developers with Microsoft Office 365 and Azure experience. They don't care about my Python machine learning house. That's not a good fit, right, for what my
Yep.
position is. I'm representing the buyers that have specific job requirement and a specific job that they're trying to fill. And you are selling your house, but it's for sale by owner because you're not
Right.
paying someone to
Right.
list your house for you.
Right. I mean, your equivalent of a seller's agent might be like your LinkedIn or Indeed or one of those job posting sites, right? Yeah.
Unless you're hiring a headhunter, which usually only exists for executives in big cities like New York City, and you
Yep.
as the candidate are paying someone to go on that job search for you, which I do for my leaders in transition practice as a coach, which is
Right.
not the typical
Right.
thing, not as a recruiter. You're representing yourself. So you have to go put the sign out on the front lawn, this house is for sale, and determine the price of this house. You have to
Hmm.
advertise this house, and you have to make relationships with all the buyer agents in town and say, come to my open house. My house is for sale. Come look at what I have for sale, which is the same as updating your LinkedIn profile, putting the open to work banner or open to work only for recruiters in this case, again, buyers agents.
Yep.
Tell them what you're looking for, tell them that you're available, get your resume in front of them, polish and update your LinkedIn profile and your first impression, or have a personal website or a GitHub account or something to showcase your skills of what makes you attractive and valuable so that
Right.
all of the recruiters know that you're in the market and that you're looking for a new job and have access to find a way to contact you and know what your value add is.
Right. And you're a rarity. Well, you're a rarity in a lot of ways, Kate, but in that you are also a coach.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when you and I are talking, we have to stop and be like, okay, what mode am I in? Am I in a recruiter mode or a coach mode? But for folks who need help building their brand, building their narrative, showcasing what they bring to the table, that's where you see career coaches out there that can
Right.
can help them if they're struggling in that space. And I see it out in just out on in the news where in the recruiter community, you see lots of recruiters lament that, oh man, this job seeker is trying to use me as their job coach. I'm really just essentially trying to close a deal here. I'm not here to help them develop themselves or tell their story or whatever. And maybe they can do a little bit of that on the fly as like a quick here's
Right.
here's a tip, right? But they're not going
Yeah.
to help you build that package or build that great ad that you put on Realtor.com for your house, right?
Exactly. Yes. So coaches, career coaches, resume writing services,
Yes. Yep.
some of those paid for services of how do I stage my house, right? How do I
Yeah.
update my LinkedIn is my MLS listing, right? Like my LinkedIn profile, my resume, and how do I make sure that it advertises all the things that make me unique and tells people that I'm on the market and I'm available. But yeah, if you're not paying for that advice and service, you're staging your own house, right? So,
Hmm.
and the recruiter again is representing all the buyers in that market, which
Right.
are the companies that have the open positions to fill.
Okay.
So that's my metaphor that made the most sense. I was talking to a friend and she was like, yeah, I like that metaphor because most people have bought and sold a house before. But again, the myth is recruiters work for the candidate and they're only looking at you if you fit an open position that they are being hired to fill, right?
So okay, so myth number two. Let's see. Recruiters aren't busy, just working with me. I think we touched on that a little bit, but let's expand on that.
Yeah. So you were asking like how many candidates is a recruiter talking to in a given week? And I would say 100 is probably a realistic
Yeah.
number, as crazy as that sounds, right? So
Yeah.
you're not in a committed exclusive relationship, right? There's a ton of other people that recruiter is talking to fill the jobs that they're working on. And so depending on the clients and their job openings, some recruiters are juggling 5 to 10 open jobs at any given time, which can result in 40 to 100 applicants per job, right?
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
filling their calendar with screens. Just yesterday, recruiting is only one of the businesses that I do, right? I talked to 4 candidates for a position yesterday and submitted 2 of them to that hiring manager. So just yesterday, I had 4 different candidates that I was talking to. And so the recruiting process is also an ongoing process where there's candidates in different stages. And so for those 5 or 10 positions I have open on I have a dashboard and a CRM to help me manage it if I'm organized, but I have some new candidates that are coming in that are being screened, and then I have some that are submitted, I have some that are interviewing, I have some that have been rejected, I have some going into second stages of interviews. So there's all the different steps of that process that I have to take each candidate through for each position that I'm working on. And so there's a lot of back work that happens. And so if you are just waiting for a recruiter that you spoke with last week to call you back, it's time for you to take control of your job search and remind that recruiter and check in and ask for an update and be polite but persistent.
Right.
Every 2 or 3 days, it's fair for you to shoot them an email. You now have a relationship. They have a position that you're interested in. You've sent them your resume. You want an update. Did you submit my resume? Do you have feedback? When will the interview be scheduled? Hey, I have an update for you, recruiter, as a candidate. I got another offer, or I got another interview happening over here, or I'm going on a trip and here's my availability. Like, something has changed and I want to keep you in the loop so that you can keep me in the loop. But it's a two-way street, and that communication and relationship needs to be continuous and frequent.
Yep.
Again, polite, professional, persistent,
Sure.
until you get closure, yes or no,
Yeah.
about the position that you're working on with that recruiter.
Right. And think about, for folks listening, put yourself in well, your own shoes. You're busy at work. You have lots of different things you're balancing. They're bound to be things that you forget about, or people you forget to get back to. And sometimes it's nice to have that nudge of, hey, remember we talked about that thing? Oh, right. So think
Yeah.
everybody's human, right? So you don't think you're being pushy or annoying or unprofessional. Recruiters are generally overwhelmed with the number of people that they have that they're trying to place. So pipe up. Yeah.
Yeah. The person that reminds me is going to make me be like, oh, yes, I do need his feedback. I do need her feedback and next steps or update. Yes, this person is very interested in my job. There's some positive buying signs too. And it helps remind me and gets back to the top of my inbox,
Yeah.
right? And also it's important to remember, because I hear a lot uh, of recruiter bashing online too, of this recruiter ghosted me,
Yep.
right? And ghosting happens both ways, right? Candidates have
Sure.
ghosted and not shown up for interviews with me, and just happened last week. And I think I'm a professional. But recruiters don't get back to you too. But if you're reminding them, and also let's remember, this recruiter is really that middle messenger between the candidate and the hiring manager, whether they're a corporate recruiter or an agency recruiter. The recruiter isn't making the hiring decision and offering you the job. They're just that liaison between candidates that are interested in the job and the hiring manager, who is the end buyer. So that recruiter,
Mhm.
again, is that buyer's agent representative. It's not the decision maker. And so a lot of times it's a game of phone tag, or the telephone game of passing the message. And so the recruiter might be waiting for that feedback or update or interview availability from that hiring manager, and then has to get back to that candidate. And so by reminding them, I might check my Outlook or my CRM and be like, oh, I did get feedback and I forgot to get back to
Right.
that candidate. And also, some recruiters love giving the positive news to the candidate that gets the job or gets the interview, but it's really difficult to give that rejection news. And so the recruiter might be sitting on the bad news and not wanting to give you the bad
Yeah.
news about
So
the
they might need a
rejection,
push. Yeah. Yeah.
but leaving you in that hope, purgatory is horrible and terrible too. And in my training for recruiters, I specifically point this out. The difference between a good recruiter and a bad recruiter is the good recruiter will close that feedback loop, even if it's hard to give rejection, so that the candidate has closure on that position with you.
Yep. Great. Yep. Okay.
That's
Myth
that.
number
That's
three. What's that?
That's that myth. That's all I got to say about that.
Good. I just to clarify, I may be able to just fix this up in an edit. I said recruiters aren't busy just working with me. It's the myth is actually recruiters are busy just working with me, and the reality is they're not. So for people who really picked up on that. So myth number 3,
Sure.
recruiters can place candidates for any job. Say more.
Yes, I love this one too. Um, so the truth is, recruiters and recruiting agencies have different specialties and specific clients or industries that they work with or markets that they work with.
Mhm.
And I can explain this further. So if I'm a corporate recruiter and I work at ABC company, I only have positions at ABC company that I can offer you. And I am as a corporate recruiter, I might only be working on sales positions, and I might only be working on lead generation and inside sales positions in North America. And so depending on how big the corporate recruiting team is, I have a very specialized niche. So I only am worried about candidates that are salespeople that live in North America that are interested in working at my company. And if I'm an agency, I have certain agreements in place with certain clients that I am in a contract agreement and in a relationship and partnership with to support them with staff. And I only can work with those companies. And so I might not have an agreement to work with ABC company. I only can work with CBS.
Right.
I guess I'm now in the news, but the television business. But so I can't help you get into ABC. You have to make friends with a recruiter at ABC or a staffing agency that's already in a relationship with ABC that has an agreement in place to staff for them. But if you're interested in CBS, I can help you with CBS. And so I think this is interesting and important because I appreciate referrals. My whole business is referrals and the
Mhm.
network that I've created and being this player in the IT recruiting space in Raleigh, North
Mhm.
Carolina. And like we joke that I have this big reputation here, big
Mhm.
fish, little pond, right? But I get referrals for people like just last week, this SVP of sales in Dallas, Texas. So a friend of mine that knows that I'm a recruiter sends me his friend from Dallas, Texas that's looking for a new job and needs an SVP of sales job in Dallas, Texas. Well, my specialty is IT and executive search, and lots of my positions are companies that have a presence here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I
Sure.
talked to the guy in Dallas. I gave him my 30-minute spiel of free advice, but the likelihood of me having a position to help that VP of sales candidate in Dallas, Texas is really, really small because that's not my specialty, that's not my
Right.
focus. And he would be better served making connections with companies and recruiting firms that are in his market
Sure.
that specialize in sales.
And I've even fallen into this, knowing more about your business. I'm just so accustomed to you being the connector and the networker, and well, Kate knows everybody. I had a friend who was looking for
In
a
Raleigh,
role
North Carolina.
in Raleigh, North Carolina. I had a friend who was looking for help in Boston, and I thought, well, I know an amazing recruiter, and you're like, well, yeah, I don't know any companies, whatever. And do they have a presence in North Carolina? Because maybe I could help. But it's important to understand the range of the person you're working with, both in capability and geography, right?
Right. Yeah. Skill sets, industry, geography, and specific clients that they're working with. And this is again why you can't just talk to one recruiter. You need to talk to multiple recruiters that are representing multiple companies and multiple opportunities to increase your odds of selling your resume, selling yourself.
Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
yeah, I think this is another one that is one of my favorite myths to bust.
Well, and you're a victim of your own success, Kate. People just keep coming to you because you always have the answers and the person to talk to.
Well, and I named my company Connections because I want to be that connector and I enjoy being that connector and I love the referrals and I will always try to introduce someone if it's not me to someone else, right? And pay it forward. And I'm a strong believer in that. And also the people pleaser in me hates that I can't help everyone that I get
Hmm.
referred to, right? And so knowing my strengths and sharing my strengths so that I don't give people false hope. I think is important too.
Well, I think we should talk later about your strategy for building regional offices to overcome that, and we'll
Sure.
work on that.
My expansion strategy. So yes.
All right, we have one more myth here. Let's see, recruiters, just to keep track for those who are counting. Myth number 4, recruiters are paid from the candidate's salary.
Yeah. Yeah. So people always wonder like how are recruiters paid? So the truth is the recruiters, again, are paid by the company that has hired them to fill the positions. So they're paid directly from the company's budget. There's no money coming out of your pocket. That's why the recruiter doesn't work for you, right? So a recruiter is paid for their services either by the corporation that they work for, if they're a corporate recruiter, or they're paid a salary and they might get bonuses, but they're usually not paid commission per placement if they're a corporate recruiter. Or if they're an agency recruiter that works for one of the big staffing companies, they're usually salaried by that agency and they're usually commissioned per placement that they do. So they might earn commission every placement that they're successful at making because that staffing agency is charging the company where they're placing the candidate a fee for that placement. But either way, the recruiter is paid by the company that has the positions that are open, the company that is paying for them to show up to work. And most of them are not 100% commission, like me as an entrepreneur. Most of them have a salary plus some sort of incentive based pay.
So how does that show up where that perception or myth can trip up a job seeker? Like where have you seen that complicate things?
So sometimes a candidate is afraid to engage a staffing agency recruiter because they don't want to have to pay a fee for that recruiter to represent them. So the fear is, if I talk to you as a recruiter at an agency, am I going to be on the hook of paying this fee out of my pocket, right?
Gotcha.
And so again, if you're paying that person, it's usually a career coach, a resume writer, or a headhunter, and that's part of the deal, and that should be made aware of upfront. But yeah, the agency recruiters aren't going to charge you. You're not going to get a bill when they successfully get you a job. The bill goes to the company that you're going to work for.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of, well, maybe this might impact my salary negotiations if they're getting a percentage of that going forward. So yeah. But
other good point, which it does. So, well, it doesn't. The recruiter that is working for an agency is incentivized to get you a higher salary because the placement fee is usually a percentage of that salary, but it doesn't come out of that salary, right? Mm-hmm. Again, it comes out of the company's budget.
Out of the fee, which is structured as a percentage of the starting salary. Yep.
Right. So if I'm able to get you $150,000 instead of $130,000 and my fee is 20%, now I've just made a couple of $1,000s more because I got you more money. It ends up costing the company that you're going to work for more money, but not you, and I make more money. So I'm on your side. So in a way, sharing your salary is beneficial, and the recruiter that you're working with should be helping to get you more money. But a lot of corporations have set salary bands, fixed budgets per role, per level, based on, especially big companies have to have salaries and pay bands. And so corporate recruiters are aware, senior level, individual contributor, professional, this is the range of salary that I'm able to pay. Here is the max. I'm not able to go over this max unless I get approval for this to become a lead, grade level above. And the recruiters should know the information about the salary ranges for those roles and those positions.
Right. Because that could cause problems for the hiring manager down the road if they have someone out of the range and when it comes time for merit and bonuses and everything. Yep.
Right. You want 200,000 and the position pays 150,000. Like that's too big of a gap for me to fit and to negotiate. Right. And So but the recruiter's working on your behalf to get you the best. The good recruiter is working on your behalf to get you the best salary possible for the role commensurate with your experience and what the budget is from the company that they're placing you at.
Okay. Good. Well, that's that was insightful. I hadn't realized that was something that had bubbled up for through the recruiter lens, that people were concerned that they'd have out of pocket expense. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so those were the four big ones we had.
Yeah.
Great conversation. I know we're coming up on time here. Anything you want to leave job seekers with through your lens of the very various things you've been up to over the years? What's your send off message?
So my send off message is always be networking,
Yes,
right? It's easier to make friends and network when you're employed. So always be networking is always my send off message. I think it's make friends with the right recruiters, the good recruiters in your market that represent the skill sets, the industry, and the market that you're interested in working in. So make sure that you have the right relationships with those recruiters and that they know what you're looking for. What are your target job role skill sets? Um, and keep in touch with colleagues and recruiters. Remind them politely, let them know that you're in the market, and update your LinkedIn. That's where you're going to be found. LinkedIn is the number one platform, professional platform for people to be found. So the more information that you can share that paints a good picture about who you are, what your passions are, what your brand is that you're representing. I'm speaking tonight about executive brand and presence, right?
sure.
Updated picture, updated contact info. And if you are looking, don't be afraid to turn on that open to work. There's a way to turn it on LinkedIn where only recruiters see it, and it blocks the recruiters at your current company so that they don't find out. It doesn't
Oh,
have to have the
that's a
green badge
interesting.
around
Yep.
your picture, right? So,
Right. So the rest of the
but if
world just
you
sees your picture. Yep.
right. But if you did lose your job, if you did experience a public restructuring and layoff at a big company, and people know that that company did layoffs and that you are available for work, turn that big green open to work logo. It shouldn't have a shame or a bad stigma. It just allows your old friends and colleagues, people that know you on LinkedIn, to be aware that you were impacted and you were looking for a job. And it might create the next, new opportunity for you, because most people get jobs based on their network and referrals and the people that they know and used to work with. And second to that is working with the right best recruiters in your space, in your market.
Fantastic. Kate, thanks so much for joining us today. Always happy to have you on the podcast, and we do have some future panels on the schedule that we'd love to have you participate in. But otherwise, yeah, had a blast today, and enjoy your talk tonight. I know you're going to nail it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And always looking to connect with people for either brand that I represent, right? Connections or recruit hers, or find me on LinkedIn. And good luck to Jessel. I'm glad to be a part of season 2.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate.
Thank
Take
you.
care.